The crown that sleeps. For 300 years, the alien empire of Valdari had no true ruler. Inside the tall black palace of the capital city, under a sky of 3 moons, a golden crown floated above a glowing pedestal. It was the crown of Eldra, the living symbol of power. Made of star metal, it had once burned with fire when worn by a worthy queen or king. But now the crown was cold. Generations had come and gone. Noble heirs from powerful houses had tried to claim it. Each time they walked toward the crown with pride and hope. Each time the crown stayed dead. It did not move. It did not glow. It rejected them all. The Valdari people began to lose faith. Whispers spread. The crown has no more magic. Others said, the true heir has not yet been born. But the oldest among them remembered an ancient prophecy. The crown will burn again, for one not of our kind. The Hall of Ascension was full today. Hundreds of nobles and high guards stood in silence as Lady Zira, the strongest claimant yet, walked toward the crown. Her skin shimmered with royal violet scales, and her golden armor clicked with every step. Her head was held high. Her family had ruled before the fall. She believed she was the one. Queen Zephyra sat on her dark throne, watching closely. She had ruled without the crown for years, only as a caretaker, a symbol of order in the empire's chaos. She hoped today would end that waiting. The high priest began the ritual. Let the crown see her heart, he called. Let the fire rise. Zira stepped close. She knelt. She reached her hand slowly toward the crown. Nothing. The crown remained, still cold, quiet, empty. Gasps filled the hall. Murmurs followed. The priest stepped back, confused. Zira's face darkened with anger and shame. Queen Zephyra stood. Her voice was strong but tired. The crown has spoken. Lady Zira is not the one. That night, in the lower levels of the palace, far from gold and glory, a human man sat alone in a stone cell. His name was Daniel Reyes, once a soldier of Earth, now a prisoner of the Valdari. He had been captured in a failed human rebellion years ago. The aliens had won. His team was killed. He survived, but not as a hero. They had called him strong, for a human too stubborn to die. But now he was forgotten, a ghost in chains. He sat with his back to the wall, arms bruised, jaw tight. His eyes burned, not with pain, but with something deeper. Memory, rage, and still. Hope. A soft sound came from the corridor. Metal footsteps. A woman in dark robes stopped outside his cell. Her face was hidden, but her voice was smooth. You do not sleep, she said. I don't dream well here, Daniel replied. You are the last human left in this city? Then it must be quiet up there, he said with a dry smile. She didn't laugh. She just looked at him for a moment. The crown rejected another today, she said. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Is that what the fireworks were about? You mock our pain? No, I just don't care. The woman leaned closer to the bars. You should, because the queen is coming, and she asked to see you. Daniel's smile vanished. Above, in the royal chamber, Queen Zephyra stood alone. Her long gown of starlight cloth dragged behind her. She looked up at the ancient crown through the skylight. Why? She whispered. Why do you sleep? Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with longing. She had ruled without love, without help, without hope. The crown had refused her too, yet she stayed loyal to the throne. Behind her a guard entered. My queen. The human, he is ready. Zephyra turned her head slightly. Ready for what? To meet you as you ordered. She paused, then nodded. Bring him to the chamber, not the cell. In a quiet hallway, the floating crown pulsed once, faintly. It was the first time it had moved in 3 centuries. And deep below, in the dark cell, Daniel Reyes stood slowly as the guards opened his door. He didn't know why the queen wanted him. He didn't know that the moment he stepped into the royal chamber, everything in the empire would change. And he didn't see that on the pedestal, far above and the ancient crown had started to glow, the guard's sword was shaking. He didn't understand why, but the human's eyes made him nervous. Daniel Reyes wasn't tall. He wasn't glowing like the Valdari, but when he stood in the cell doorway, shackles around his wrists and dried blood on his face, something about him felt wrong. Not weak, not broken, dangerous. 3 guards surrounded him with blasters. None dared to move first. The High Captain barked, "Walk forward, human." Daniel didn't answer. He just smiled faintly. The kind of smile you give right before a punch. Then he stepped forward, slow and calm as if he owned the palace. The royal halls were silent as they led him through. Valdari nobles in silk and silver robes stared from balconies above. Murmurs rippled. Some had never seen a real human before. Some whispered, "Why him?" Others spat the word animal. But Daniel kept walking, eyes straight, shoulders back. He had fought worse battles than stairs, and somewhere in the shadows of the tall columns the queen watched him approach. Queen Zephyra stood beside the crown of Eldra. She was tall, regal, her face marked by years of lonely rule. She had summoned this man, this human, not by reason, but by instinct. The moment she heard the crown had glowed while he slept below, she knew something had changed. But still, she doubted. Could the crown really be reacting to this? Daniel was brought before her and forced to kneel. "Do you know why you are here?" Zephyra asked, her voice low. Daniel looked up. "No, but if it ends with another beating, at least the room's prettier." Some of the guards tensed. The queen raised her hand. "You mock royalty?" "I mock being dragged out of my cell without answers." Zephyra stepped closer. "The ancient crown, our most sacred relic, reacted when you were brought into the palace halls. It hasn't responded to anyone in 3 centuries, until you." Daniel blinked, clearly not expecting that. "So, you think your magic hat likes me?" "This is no joke," she said coldly. "Then maybe tell me why your crown cares about a soldier in chains. You were a commander once, were you not?" "I was a survivor, there's a difference." Zephyra stared at him, not with disgust, but with interest. He didn't beg. He didn't plead. Most prisoners broke within days. Daniel had lasted years, and now the most powerful object in the empire had reacted to him. She nodded to the guards. "Remove his chains." The guards hesitated. "Do it," she repeated. Metal hit the marble floor. Daniel rubbed his wrists slowly. "Why the kindness?" he asked. "I want to test something," the queen said. The crown of Eldra floated above its pedestal, still glowing faintly. The room dimmed as torches were lowered. All eyes turned toward the floating crown of power. "Walk toward it," Zephyra ordered. Daniel didn't move. "What if I don't want to?" "Then I'll put you back in your hole, and next time I won't be so kind." He exhaled through his nose. "Fair enough." He took one step, then another, and then the crown pulsed. A wave of golden light surged out like a heartbeat. The nobles gasped. The high priest dropped his staff. Daniel stopped, shocked. "What the hell was that?" Zephyra whispered. "The crown welcomed you." The light grew brighter as he neared. The crown lifted, itself higher, spinning slowly. Flames, not fire, but something like energy, burned around its edges. Daniel stood still, a foot away. "It wants you," Zephyra said, awe in her voice. "Why?" Daniel muttered. "I'm not your kind. I'm not even from this world." "The prophecy," the high priest croaked. "It spoke of this." Zephyra stepped forward. "You are the one it has waited for." Daniel looked at her. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't come here to be your king." "No one chooses the crown," she replied. "The crown chooses." Behind the curtains of the throne room, unseen eyes watched. A group of powerful nobles, jealous and angry, whispered, "He's a beast, an enemy. If she crowns him, we will rebel. He must be removed, tonight." Daniel turned away from the crown. "I don't know what this thing wants, but I'm not a symbol, and I'm not your savior." Zephyrus said nothing at first. Then she whispered, "If you leave now, they'll kill you before you reach the gate." Daniel paused. "Then I guess I'm already trapped." The queen gave a small smile. "Not trapped, just chosen." The crown moved on its own, not by force, not by magic spell. It chose. The guards dropped to one knee. The high priest began to cry, and Daniel Reyes stood there, shoulders tight, fists clenched, as the crown slowly floated down toward him. Not fast, not dangerous. Like it was greeting him. A symbol of 3 centuries of silence. Now glowing for a man born on another world. Queen Zephyra's breath caught in her throat. She had seen nobles scream, warriors beg, high-born sons break into madness when the crown rejected them. But this man, a prisoner, a stranger, had not begged, had not tried, and the crown was burning gold for him. The prophecy was true, she thought. It was never for us. Daniel took a half step back. "What's it doing?" he asked, voice low. "It's recognizing you," Zephyrus replied. "I don't want to be recognized." The crown paused, hovering inches above his head. It shimmered, glowing hotter, brighter, until the light filled the chamber like a second sun. Then, without touching him, it froze mid-air. The energy didn't fade. It waited. A sudden voice echoed through the chamber. "He must be stopped." All heads turned. From behind the golden columns, Lord Varix, leader of House Zern, stepped forward, his cloak snapping behind him. "This is a lie," he shouted. "A trick. No off-worlder will wear the sacred crown." More nobles poured in, behind him, eyes burning with rage. Varix pointed a shaking claw at Daniel. "He's a prisoner, a killer of our kind. How can we trust the judgment of a dead artifact?" Zephyrus stepped in front of Daniel. "You forget yourself, Varix. The crown is older than all of us. You dare question it?" But Varix wasn't alone. 10 soldiers stepped out from the shadows, swords drawn. Daniel stepped back, eyes scanning the room. "Let me guess," he muttered. "This is the part where I die?" "No," Zephyrus said quietly. "This is the part where you survive." She raised one hand and the royal guards moved in. Blasters charged, blades drawn. The room was now a battlefield waiting to break. But the crown didn't move. It remained between the chaos, glowing calmly, like it knew this moment had been coming for centuries. Varix hissed, "You would protect him? This thing?" Daniel's voice cut through the noise. "You don't even know me." "We don't need to," Varix spat. "You are not one of us." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "That's the point, isn't it? None of you were worthy, and you hate that I might be." The words stung. Varix rushed forward. But before his sword could strike, a blast of energy erupted from the crown. Pure force, like a thunderclap in a bottle. Varix was thrown across the floor, armor shattered. Gasps echoed around the chamber. The crown had protected Daniel. Silence returned. Daniel looked down at his hands. No burn, no wound, but something inside him had changed. It wasn't magic. It wasn't power. It was recognition. He looked at Zephira. "What does this mean?" She stepped closer. "It means you are no longer just a prisoner. The crown chose you, and in doing so it chose our future." Daniel shook his head. "I'm not your savior." Zephyr's eyes softened. "You don't have to be. But you are something we haven't had in centuries. A beginning." Later, in the Queen's private chamber, the advisors panicked. "Can't allow this," said one. "There will be war," said another. "Even if the crown chose him, he's human." Zephira raised her hand. "Let them fear. Let them rage. The crown has spoken, and we will follow it." In the lower barracks, whispers flew like wildfire. The crown had glowed. Not for Zira, Not for the queen, but for the human. Some were afraid. Some were furious, but a few were curious. And in the shadows of the outer palace, a hooded figure lit a red signal flare, meant only for assassins. A message: kill the human before the crowning day. The sound of a throne breaking echoed across the chamber. Queen Zephyra had just shattered the royal seat of House Zurn with one blow of her scepter. The nobles gasped. No queen in history had done such a thing. But Zephyra didn't care. She stood, tall voice steady. Any house that defies the crown's will defies the empire itself. Her eyes burned with something dangerous now, not just duty but conviction. Across the empire, shockwaves rippled. News spread like wildfire. The human prisoner is the chosen heir. The crown glowed for him. The queen has protected him. In the desert cities, in the floating palaces above the clouds, and even in the icy colonies of the outer moons, reactions were mixed. Some called it a miracle, others called it treason. And deep inside the secret war halls of the noble families, battle plans were drawn in silence. Daniel Reyes sat alone in the Queen's garden, surrounded by glowing alien trees. He held the broken remains of his shackles in his lap, thinking. He never asked for any of this. He just wanted to survive, to go home. But the moment that crown had started glowing, home felt a lot farther away. A soft voice broke his thoughts. You don't look like a ruler. It was the Queen's niece, Lyra, the same woman who had once watched him quietly from behind the bars. Now she stood beside him, arms crossed, not afraid. Daniel looked up. Do I look like a threat? She tilted her head. Maybe not now, but you've shaken the galaxy by doing nothing at all. He chuckled. That's kind of my thing. Lyra sat beside him. You know they're going to kill you, right? Daniel's smile faded. I figured. She leaned in. You should leave tonight. I can help you escape. He looked at her, this alien woman with worried eyes, and sighed. I thought about running, he said. But the moment that crown glowed, I knew I couldn't. Why not? He looked up at the stars. Because for the first time, something chose me. In the royal council room, chaos reigned, yelling, accusations, threats. He's not one of us. He is our enemy. The people will rise against you. Queen Zephyra sat calmly in her throne as her council tore itself apart. She let them speak, let them shout. Then she stood. The crown has chosen. You were there, you saw it. One noble slammed the table. The people do not trust it. They need a Valdari heir. Zephyra stepped forward. The people need hope. And the crown gave it to a human. She turned to the guards. Prepare the capital for coronation. Gasps filled the room. The coronation? Someone whispered. You can't be serious. Zephyra's voice cut through like a blade. He will wear the crown at the rising ceremony, and if anyone tries to stop it, they will answer to me. Far away in the fire mountains of House Dren, the warlords gathered. They mean to place a human on the throne, one growled. We warned her. She didn't listen, said another. What now? Asked a third. A fourth voice, old and cold, answered, Now we kill him. That night, inside the palace walls, Daniel's door creaked open. But it wasn't a servant. It was an assassin. Silent, masked, blade glowing with poison. He moved like a shadow, knife raised. But before he could strike, Lyra tackled him from the side. The two tumbled across the floor in a blur of limbs and sparks. Daniel rolled away, grabbing a fallen alien blade from the ground. The assassin lunged again. Daniel blocked, twisted, then drove the blade deep into the attacker's side. The assassin fell, gasping, black blood spilling. Daniel stood panting, looking down, his first kill in years. Lyra sat up, blood on her lip. You're learning fast. He stared at her. They're not going to stop, are they? She shook her head. No. And they're just getting started. At the top of the tallest tower, Queen Zephyra stared into the night sky. The crown floated beside her, still glowing softly. She whispered, "They will come for him." The crown flared brighter, almost as if answering her. She didn't look away. "Then let them try." The knife was already touching his throat when Daniel opened his eyes. No sound, no warning, just cold metal and a colder voice whispering, "Don't move." The assassin's hand was steady. His mask was black bone, his scent like burning oil. This wasn't a thief. This was a professional. Daniel froze. His heart pounded, but his face stayed calm. He'd been in situations like this before. On Earth, during the old wars, but back then he had a squad, a plan, a chance. Now, he had only seconds. But the assassin made a mistake. He spoke. "You should have stayed in your cell, human." Daniel moved fast. Not perfectly, but fast enough. He grabbed the assassin's wrist and twisted hard, forcing the blade away just before it cut skin. The two crashed to the floor. One punch, two. A knee to the ribs. Daniel rolled. The assassin followed like smoke, silent, skilled, deadly. A blade flashed in the dark. Daniel ducked. The wall behind him sparked. He grabbed a glass lamp and shattered it against the attacker's face. Sparks and fire sprayed across the floor. The assassin stumbled back, mask cracked. That's when Lyra burst through the door, shouting, "Daniel, down!" She fired a blaster. The shot hit the assassin in the leg. He fell, groaning. Daniel stood over him, chest heaving. "You know," he said, "this royal treatment keeps getting better." Minutes later, the Queen's guards stormed in. The assassin was dragged away, barely alive. His blood was green, his armor marked with a secret crest, one only used by noble houses in rebellion. Zephyra stared at the body coldly. "They're not hiding anymore." Daniel wiped blood from his hands. He was good. Too good. Lyra looked at him. "You fought like a soldier." "I was one," he said, "before all this." Zephyra stepped closer. "Then we'll need that soldier again. There won't be just one assassin next time, there will be many." Far away inside a burning canyon fortress, Lord Varix threw a crystal against the wall. He survived? Again? His advisor bowed low. "The assassin failed, but more are ready. You gave the signal. I gave the signal for silence," Varix screamed. "And all I hear is failure." Another noble stepped forward. "Maybe we should let the humans see what kind of king he becomes. Let him wear the crown." Varix spun and struck him down with a psychic blast. "No," he growled. "The moment that crown touches his head, say we lose everything." Back in the capital, Daniel stood on a high balcony, looking out at the alien city. Fires flickered in the distance. Protests, maybe even riots. "I don't belong here," he muttered. Lyra joined him. "The crown disagrees." He turned to her. "And what about you? Do you think I should wear it?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said softly, "I think you're the only one who hasn't asked for power. That's why the crown might trust you." Daniel looked away. "They want me dead. Then you'll need to stop acting like a prisoner," she said, "and start acting like someone who survives." The Queen's war room was glowing with red lights. Maps, troop movements, spy reports. Zephyra pointed to 3 rebel houses. They've armed private armies. One already sent an assassin. General Rune, her war chief, asked, "Should we strike first?" Daniel entered the room quietly. "No." Everyone turned. He spoke clearly. "If you hit them first, they'll call you the tyrant. You'll lose the people." Zephyra studied him. "What do you suggest?" "Make the coronation public. Let the world see. Let the crown choose me in front of everyone." Rune frowned. "That's dangerous." Daniel nodded. "Exactly. Let them try to kill me in front of the Empire. Then we'll see who the real traitors are." Zephyra smiled, slow and sharp. You are a soldier. That night, as the moonlight hit the floating crown in its chamber, it pulsed once, warm and bright. It wasn't just glowing now. It was waiting. The throne room doors exploded before the sun even rose. Smoke filled the air. Screams echoed across the marble halls. Alien guards dropped where they stood, some stunned, some dead. Red banners of rebellion came pouring in behind the fire. The palace was under attack, and the one they came to kill was already awake. Daniel Reyes was standing shirtless in the training yard, sword in hand, when the alarms began. He didn't flinch. He didn't ask questions. He just turned to the royal guard beside him and said, "Time to earn that armor." He rushed inside. Queen Zephyra met him at the corridor entrance, her royal robe torn, a blaster in one hand. "They've come early," she said, voice calm, eyes sharp. Daniel smirked. "Guess I'm not as unpopular as I thought." "More like feared," she replied. Together they ran toward the central chamber. Behind them, the palace shook from another blast. In the throne room, Lord Varix stepped over broken pillars and declared to the nobles hiding behind curtains, "This is no longer a kingdom, it's a cage. That crown belongs to Valdari blood, not a human invader." He raised his spear. "Bring the human's head, let it roll before dawn." But Daniel wasn't running. He was moving toward the chaos, through flames, through fear, through smoke-filled corridors. He had no crown yet, but the palace guards followed him like a commander. Not because he gave orders, but because he moved like someone who knew how to survive. Lyra found him in the west wing, sword in hand. "You're going to get yourself killed, only if I stay still." She threw him a wrist communicator. "This connects you to the Queen's elite guard. Use it." Daniel caught it and grinned. "Didn't know I was officially hired?" "You're not. I just don't want the man who made the crown glow dying in the hallway." He paused. That almost sounded like a compliment. She rolled her eyes. "Don't make me take it back." The rebels flooded the grand hallway, but they weren't ready for Daniel's fury. He moved like lightning. Not graceful like the Valdari warriors, but fast, brutal, precise. His Earth-style combat confused them. His broken arm block, his shoulder strikes, his knees. His rage. By the time the second wave came, Daniel was standing in blood, chest rising and falling. Zephyra joined him, firing from behind a shattered column. "They're everywhere." "They're afraid," he said. "That's why they're rushing. That crown scares them." She glanced at him. "And do I scare you?" He looked her in the eyes. "You scare me more than the crown ever could." She smiled, for the first time in days. The Queen's elite guard regrouped in the circle of fire, a defensive line around the pedestal where the crown still floated. More rebels were coming. Daniel stood at the center, cut, bruised, armor burned, but still standing. He turned to the soldiers and said, "This is not just about a crown. It's about who decides your future, cowards with titles, or those who fought to survive." A pause. He added, "You don't have to follow me, but I won't run. Not today." And then, one by one, the alien warriors lifted their weapons and stood beside him. Back in the rebel camp, a scout ran to Varix. "The Queen's forces are holding." "The human, he's still alive," Varix growled. "Then we send everything, all forces, no more tricks." He raised the final command crystal. "Burn the palace to ash." But in the palace, something else was burning already. The crown. Its glow turned from gold to white-hot fire, brighter than before. It rose higher in the air, spinning fast. Daniel looked up at it from across the room. "It's calling me," he whispered. Zephyra nodded. "Then answer." As enemy troops broke through the last gate, Daniel stepped toward the crown. Each step lit the floor beneath him. The rebels stopped and stared. He walked straight through the fire. The crown lowered, faster now. It hovered above his head. Then, in front of the entire palace, the flames surged, and the crown split in two. The crown did not fall. It broke itself, willingly. Two halves of living star metal hovered in midair, blazing with fire and ancient power. They circled Daniel Reyes like twin moons, bright enough to blind. The entire palace froze. Rebels stopped mid-charge. The Queen's guards dropped to their knees. Even Zephyra, ruler of Valdari, took a silent step back. The crown had not rejected Daniel. It had transformed for him. Daniel didn't move. He stood in the center of the room, arms at his sides, the firelight painting his scars gold. The air around him shimmered. The ground cracked beneath his feet. Then slowly, the two halves of the crown came down, one onto his head, the other onto Queen Zephyra's. The light turned blinding white, then vanished. Silence. No screams. No fire. Just peace. Daniel looked around. Everything had stopped. Time felt still. The power around him faded, but something inside him remained. He wasn't just wearing a crown now. He was the crown. Zephyra touched the cold metal resting on her head. It chose both of us. Daniel nodded. Two halves. One rule. She smiled. Balance. Unity. Suddenly the room shook. The final rebel wave burst into the hall, hundreds of warriors, weapons ready. But before Daniel or Zephyra could move, a blinding pulse erupted from both crowns. The rebels were thrown back, not by force but by a vision. In each of their minds they saw the same thing, a dying future, a galaxy torn by war, cities in ruin, planets abandoned, and at the center of it all, noble houses still fighting over a dead throne. Then the vision changed. They saw Daniel and Zephyra, side by side, not as ruler and servant, not as human and alien, but as one light, guiding the empire to something new. The fire faded and the rebels dropped their weapons one by one. They knelt. Outside the palace, the people gathered. The twin crowns rose above the tower, two rulers, one human, one Valdari, both glowing, both chosen. The prophecy was fulfilled. Weeks later, the empire had changed. The throne room was rebuilt, not as a single seat, but a shared one. Daniel stood beside Zephyra as they signed the unity decree. No more pureblood rule. No more noble-only succession. From now on, leadership belonged to those proven by the crown, no matter their species. Valdari and humans trained side by side in the royal guard. The city walls opened to off-worlders, for the first time in centuries, and in the heart of it all. The split crown, still glowing, watched from its pedestal. One evening, Daniel stood on the palace balcony, looking out at the stars. Lyra joined him quietly. "You ever think you'd end up here?" she asked. Daniel smirked. "I thought I'd die in a cell." "But you didn't." He nodded. "No, because something ancient believed I could be more than a soldier." She looked at him. "You are more." A moment passed. Then from behind, Zephyra's voice echoed. "Ready to address the people, Your Majesty?" Daniel turned. "Let's not keep them waiting."